So maybe you want to be an actor, but you don't know where to start. Or you already are one, but you're looking for a different perspective. Well, in this video, I'm going to take about 10 years worth of experience and break that down into the exact steps I would take if I had to start from zero. Whether you're just starting out or feeling stuck, this is the roadmap I wish I had from day one. Let's talk about the business, the craft, and what steps I think are the best to take to make it in today's industry. But who the heck am I? My name is James Tang. I've been an actor in LA for about 10 years, and I've been on TV in shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, NCIS LA, and Bosch, and I was recently a lead on an independent feature film called To Die Alone. I've booked some things along the way, but I've also seen and made a lot of mistakes, so I'm here to try and prevent you from making any of those mistakes. First, let's start big and narrow it down. There are actually a lot of different acting jobs out there. We see big movies and TV shows from Hollywood, and I'm sure you've heard of Broadway, but there's other jobs out there like dinner theater, soap opera, reality TV, hosting, improv, and even children's birthday party character. Where do you start? Can one lead to another? This video is mostly going to be about pursuing film and TV in Los Angeles, on-camera stuff, because those have been my goals and experience, but there's a lot of principles that could carry over to other types of acting. But before getting into the how, we actually need to get into the why. Why do you want to become an actor? Do you just want to become famous so you can fill the hole in your heart because you didn't get enough attention from your friends and family while growing up? If that's the case, fine, own it and go for it. But just know that acting isn't the best way or fastest way to get famous, and it won't replace the therapy that you most likely need. And if that's your reason, that'll probably lead you down a different path than if your reason was because you must act, because you love the craft and you know you have to embody these characters to make other people laugh and cry and maybe live their lives in a better way. Whatever your reason is, write it down, even if it's just a sentence, just so that you have it. You can change it further down the line, but just having something written down will help keep you focused so that you can go for exactly the type of acting you want to do. For example, if your definition of fulfillment is to do dinner theater at a mobster-themed restaurant in Orlando for the rest of your life, that's fine, that's great. But you have to make sure to be honest and clear with yourself about it so that you can make sure to go towards that goal confidently. For me, I want to be able to tell stories and play in the worlds that I grew up watching while also improving Asian male representation with the only face that I have. My own tastes take me towards movies and limited TV series, but looking at the market now, I don't even know if that's the best direction to go. But at least having a why will keep me focused so I can adjust the how if need be. I also want to add that there's going to be exceptions to these principles. There are definitely people out there that have made it or are going to make it without following any of the things I'm about to tell you, as well as the fact that some people might even say that I'm not even that far into my career. But what I'm going to tell you are what I found as an Asian man in Hollywood to be the most effective and efficient steps to take. So now let's get into the how. First, you should understand the business and where you fit into it. Why? Because this industry, at its core, and especially at the top, is a business. Businesses are about money and numbers and profits and shit. Any good art and good acting is really just the cherry on top. You know how people are always complaining how the newest movies are just rebooted slop that don't actually do anything new artistically? Well, do you know why they keep making them? Because they make money, and boy, does this industry love money. I'm sure you can also name a few actors you've seen in projects that just aren't very good at the whole acting thing. So it's still possible to book work without being that good at acting. Do I recommend you get good at acting though? Yes. Just out of principle, really. But we'll get to the craft later. In fact, I would recommend thinking of yourself as a business, where the art is only part of the product. You, as an actor, are the product, but you're also the CEO and the chief marketing officer. So where does your business fit into the business? Let's say you're fully starting out, completely never taken any acting class before. Why would the producers, studio executives, and the director of a $100 million budget movie want to take a risk on you or me when Tom Cruise is available? Artistically, actors are the embodiment of a story's character, but on the business side, we're also marketing tools. Our boy Tom is considered a lower risk bet because he's been shown historically to make money at the box office. But he wasn't born famous. He still had to work his way up. So let's work our way up. Generally, this means booking more roles and showing that we can make money by having audiences that want to watch us so that we become more low risk. But how are we going to do that if the whole industry is so business oriented? Well, luckily, risk and money kind of go hand in hand. So the less money that's involved, the less risk there might be in, say, casting an unknown. And of course, there are still filmmakers out there that do believe in art over money, so that's great. As well as production companies that have managed to lower the risk in other parts of the process so that they're able to take more risks artistically on casting an unknown actor or something. So how do we get cast? Well, let's work backwards. Let's assume the traditional route, in that an actor gets a role through an audition process. If you want to know more, I made a previous video that goes into more detail about how an actor even gets a job. So how would one even get an audition? Well, usually someone who's in charge of casting for a project will send out a breakdown, which is a description of a character, and then they get submissions, usually in the thousands, which come in the form of headshots, and then they whittle down that list into who they feel like might be good for the role, and then they send out those auditions. So we should get headshots first, right? Hold your horses. First, before even getting a headshot, I would actually recommend taking a branding class. Branding is super important because there's a lot of things we take for granted about ourselves in how we look, behave, and feel that are very helpful to be highlighted. It helps you get an idea of how people perceive you so that you know where you fit into the market, as well as learning a lot about yourself. A bad class will make you feel like you were just put into a box and you have no control over any of it, while a good class will give you options as well as make sure that you resonate with your branding. I personally took Sam Christensen's branding class and I highly recommend that. For me, I learned that I'm the wholesome boy next door, the clean-cut Boy Scout. It was a little bit of a tough pill to swallow at first because I think every straight guy at some point in their life wants to be the bad boy in the leather jacket riding a motorcycle. But accepting my branding helped improve my acting and my marketing. Like it or not, people are going to make a judgment call about you the moment they see and hear you, and being on camera means they're going to see and hear you. Once you find your brand and essence, you can look at the people that have come before you and learn from what they did. Yes, we are all beautiful and unique individuals, but also not that unique. And so we all fall into archetypes, and so we could look at previous archetypes and see what worked for them and see what might work for us too. Once you have your branding down, then I suggest you get headshots, which is all part of a group we call your marketing materials. At face value, headshots show filmmakers what you basically look like, but they can also tell them how professional you are. If you take a bunch of selfies with your phone camera, people are probably going to think you're a joke and not take you seriously. When casting looks at submissions, it's basically a giant grid of hundreds of actors, so you kind of want to stand out, which can be done through a good photographer and good branding. Being specific can make you pop. Research headshot photographers by looking through their portfolio and seeing if you can feel the essence of each individual actor and whether their photos actually look good and whether their rates fit your budget. Here's an example of how branding works with headshots. This is one of my first headshots ever, which I don't know if I've really shown anyone. And you look at my face and I have this kind of dour, modelly look on it because I didn't know what a headshot was supposed to be for at the time. And then I wore this collared shirt because I thought headshot meant formal. Like, what even is that collar? It's so wide. Anyway, this is a headshot I got years later and after taking a branding class. You can see that there's more of an intention behind my eyes with a bit of like a I'm gonna take care of you feel to it, as well as I'm wearing like a kind of detective-y outfit. So you can see it's more specific and it fits the type of characters I would more likely play instead of dour model guy. I don't know. All right, next up is your resume, which usually comes with your headshot. Traditionally, a resume would be cut down to fit the 8x10 headshot and stapled to the back and then submitted, but nowadays everything is digital, especially after the pandemic. There's also a specific format for acting resumes that's different than a normal business resume. You want to separate your credits into TV, film, theater, web series, etc. There's different philosophies on this, but generally I put the bigger and more recognizable credits on top. But if you have nothing starting out, then you can highlight your training and your special skills. Don't make up credits because people are going to find out eventually, and that just makes you look unreliable. And we also don't put background acting in as a credit. So how do we go about getting new credits? The same way we go about getting new clips for our show reel, which is part of our materials, and that's submitting ourselves. At this point, you should have headshots now, so you can start submitting yourself to projects on websites like Actors Access or casting networks. Any actor that wants to work on a Hollywood film and TV project needs to have an Actors Access account, because that's basically where like 99.9% of the projects are going to be listed on. Except we can't even see them, only agents and managers can, but I'll get to that later. Starting out, you'll most likely be submitting yourself to student films and independent projects. If whoever's in charge of casting thinks you're right for the role, you'll get an audition or self-tape request. Let's say everything goes right. You audition, they love you, you book the role, you film it, and then what? You have this credit on your resume now, but you also want that footage for your show reel. Sometimes you just have to keep messaging the production team and seeing if it's ready, and sometimes they won't even get back to you. They could be students that just never finish their project, a very unprofessional team, or they just don't respect actors at all. Really, the best way around this is, for one, to keep track of the projects you've done so that you can reach out once in a while to see if they've got the footage, as well as just try to do more projects so that you can get footage from those and not have to sit around wait. Another way to get footage is through companies where you pay them and they'll write and film a scene for you. This costs money, but on the plus side, you do have more control over what type of scene you have, as well as there's a guarantee that you'll get that footage. Of course, I've heard arguments for both sides of this. I've heard people that work in casting say they would rather see someone book a real project and have that on their reel. And then I've also heard people say that it's fine because as long as they could see you act, then that's good enough. Another option is you meet people in acting class and you decide to film some scenes together, and it could either look great or it could look like a bunch of actors got together in an LA apartment and filmed the scene without knowing what they're doing. It really depends on who you end up working with. So there's a few options out there, and I personally would say you should aim for at least a minimum of 3 20 to 30 second scenes showing what you look and sound like that you can act and are hopefully 3 different characters. Once you have that, then you can move on to the next step, which is generally finding representation. Representation usually means an agent and or a manager, and so they could submit us to the projects that we in the general public don't have access to so that you can have a shot at being in the big film and TV projects. Yes, there's gatekeeping Hollywood, surprise, surprise, but this video is about how to navigate the system and not trying to change it. Think of agents and managers as the sales force for our business. They don't make money until we make money. So the best way to get one is to show that you can make money. And that usually comes with booking more roles to prove that you can book roles. But just remember, 14 student film credits might not be as valuable to a rep as, say, 1 or 2 network TV credits. Or you could have none of these things and an agent or manager still wants to work with you because they might see something in you. This honestly could be totally legit, or it's a lie they tell you because they want something from you. Usually your money or your poom poom. Did I mention there's a lot of exploitation in this industry? It's a lot like scams in any other industry in that they're easier to fall for if you don't understand how the business fully works and you notice that they're kind of targeting your ego or your insecurities. So make sure to do your research, ask around with other people as well, and if your gut says something is off, it's most likely off. There's also levels to representation. It's probably unlikely starting out you end up at some of the big agencies you might have heard of like CAA or WME or UTA because generally they have rosters full of big celebrities that can make them lots of money. But if you do end up being lucky and getting in with one of them, they still have rosters full of big celebrities that can make them lots of money, so you might get lost in the mix. You're most likely better off starting out with a smaller company that may also be starting out, and they are willing to take the risk on you and have that hunger to also push for you so that they can get you in the room to make that money. That way you can grow together, and then later think about jumping ship when one of those big corporate agencies dangles a giant carrot of money in front of you. The ways that have worked out best for me have been a service called Talent Link on Actors Access, which I think is a solid option for someone just starting out, or through a warm referral through other actor friends. There's also the option of cold outreach where you can just find the email contact of someone you've never met before and just send a submission, or there's services online where you can pay to have it do it for you automatically. But personally, I do prefer to be a little more targeted in my approach. Another option is actually just to wait for representation to reach out because you've been busy finding or creating your own work. Once you get representation, that doesn't suddenly mean it's all rainbows and roses now. Your reps might actually not be on the same page as you as your brand or what types of roles you want to go out for. Or they were really excited about you at first, but then after a while they realize you might not be booking as much, so they prioritize the clients that are booking more because money. Or they just don't have enough clout or experience in the industry to actually get you seen by certain casting directors. A lot of us actors complain that finding good rep is just as hard, if not harder sometimes, than finding a good significant other. Just remember that in the end, you are the CEO, so you want to make sure you're working with people that are aligned with your goals. Next up, we have networking, the word that so many people hate because they think you have to act like some starving, try-hard vulture just to make it work. But why even network at all? Because networking helps you jump over some or all of the steps that I mentioned before. You might meet an actor that can refer you to their agent or manager, or a casting director who remembers you and calls you in directly for an audition so you don't even need representation, or a screenwriter who casts you in their table read and then you impress the producer and director so much that when they actually produce the project, they cast you in the real project. Those are some of the good things that can come from networking. So how do we network? There is a good way to network. The bad part of networking happens when people approach it with a get mentality. They're trying to get those results that I mentioned before, so they see everyone as someone to be used and how can they get from them. People can smell that a mile away, and they probably won't end up helping that person because it's clear they're in it for themselves. The good news is that you can also smell that on other people, so avoid those people, but also make sure you don't become a getter. The flip side, of course, is being a giver. But then it gets weird if you're just out here, trying to give and help and be like the nice person or whatever, and everyone's like, okay, do they want something in return? So really, The trick that I found to good networking is to just be a friend. Just be a regular ass human being that's going to make friends because you have interests outside of just trying to launch your acting career. You talk to other people about those interests. Sometimes you vibe, sometimes you don't, but that's the nature of making friends. We're in this career for the long run and you want it to last decades. So do you want to work with someone that's a weird getter energy, or do you want to work with someone who's your buddy? I produce work with my friends, or I become friends with people I've been on productions with, but the common denominator is having a mutually enjoyable experience. So that's the secret to networking. Be fun to be around and put yourself out there, and eventually you'll build up a solid network. And there's a lot of different ways to network. Obviously, networking events are a thing, but honestly, just booking work and then talking to people on set and getting to know them is also another way. Or you can also do things like showcases or workshops and, of course, classes. There's honestly a lot of options and it's really down to your own preferences. If you're in the US, it's very helpful to be in LA or New York. It's not mandatory, of course, but these are cities where a lot of people move to try and make it in the industry. Like in LA, you could just go out and do a completely non-industry related event like playing pickleball or something, and it turns out like 80% of the people there are in the industry because there's just so many of them here. Of course, different cities also have different cultures. Something I learned about LA, for example, is that it's a huge city with so many people and that a lot of people end up being kind of flaky, but it's just because that's kind of this LA culture, so you don't need to take it personally. Like for me, it took me like 2.5 to 3 years to even start feeling like I had a community in LA. Just remember, we do want to be in this career for the long run, and it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. All right, so now on to the actual craft of acting. It's totally fine to be doing this at the same time as the whole branding business side. I just wanted to emphasize the business part first because I think a lot of people either forget or don't realize how important the business side is into actually getting a job. You probably even started down this path because you're intrigued by or already enjoy the act of becoming a different character and telling cool stories and even learning more about yourself. And I really think that if you're actually gonna try your hand at this, you might as well try to become the best actor you can be. But what even is good acting? Honestly, I'd argue that that's something we eventually have to define for ourselves. Like obviously, I think there's a basic level of believability that we all need to get to as actors so that we can convince someone with, the lowest level of social skills that we are the character we are playing. But beyond that, I feel like it actually ends up being up to our own tastes. I've seen actors get accolades that I don't think are very good, whereas other actors that I might think are good, someone else might hate. As for our own ability, there's a test that I really like I learned from an acting business coach, where basically if someone asks you, are you a good actor? You can say yes, because then you have this awareness of acting in general and your own ability to be able to have the confidence to say that. So how do you get good? Well, taking classes is obviously a great place to start, and I highly recommend it because not only do you get to see what might be good acting, but you also get to practice it for yourself. There's also the fact that there are techniques and methods out there being taught by teachers who have spent years honing that you kind of can't think of just on your own if you're trying to do this all by yourself. I say this because I've met actors out there who've absolutely never taken a class and rely on their instincts alone. So is this my way of calling them out and saying that they have room for improvement? Maybe. I mean, I mentioned before that you don't necessarily have to be a good actor to book work. And I think because of that, people think that just anyone can just go and do it. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But me personally, I think if you want to be serious about getting really good at acting, you need to get the training. But another caveat is that not all teachers and techniques are built the same or are right for you. This is coming from the LA perspective, but some acting teachers out there are literally abusive and create a dynamic where you are reliant on their approval. Whether it's a power trip or they think this is the best way to make money or both. Either way, if you have to take a class with them, I say get in and get out as soon as you learn what you need to learn. There's also teachers out there that are super supportive and caring, but the drawback of that is you might not know where you need to improve because they might tell someone that has the emotive ability of a plank of wood that they're doing great. It's about finding what's right for you because different people can thrive in different environments. But I personally think the most important part is as long as you have a teacher and a class where you feel safe in to be able to push your acting boundaries. It takes time to find that though, much like a relationship. So make sure to give different teachers and techniques and classes a shot before really committing to it. A lot of classes in LA offer audits, which means you can sit in the class for free, but you just don't get to participate, but you can see what the vibes are. The foundation of my acting is a 2-year Meisner program, so I obviously highly recommend it. I argue for building a foundation because there's a lot of other technical classes out there, and so by having a foundation, those classes just become tools then that could build on top. There's classes out there like audition technique, scene study, cold reading, commercial, improv, hosting, voice acting. The list really goes on. What you choose to prioritize goes back to the why we talked about and the goals that you have. This next part is technically optional, but I would say it's actually mandatory. Let's say you did everything that I mentioned before. You nailed down that brand, all your headshots and your show reel match that brand, and you're building up your resume. You're a good actor that can quickly and believably embody a character, and there are people that work in casting and writers and directors and producers that love your work, but you're not booking anything. What gives? The truth is, you could be doing everything right and you could lose out on a role or not even get an audition for so many reasons. Maybe a role wasn't written specifically for your ethnicity or gender or disability you may have, and the decision makers can't or won't imagine you in it. Or they've already offered the role to someone more famous or experienced than you and your audition was just a backup. Or you just happen to look like an executive's ex and they can't stand the sight of you. Or the entire industry is slow and most people aren't getting auditions at all. It kind of doesn't matter because most of these things are completely out of our control. This industry, even if you're not part of a marginalized group, was always difficult. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were doing all right, but their careers didn't really take off until after they made Good Will Hunting and won an Oscar for it. There's Jon Favreau with Swingers, Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson with Bottle Rocket. In 2023, it was reported that 86% of SAG-AFTRA members don't even qualify for health insurance. What does that mean? Long story short, it means that most members of the American Film and TV Acting Union aren't even making $30,000 a year through acting jobs. So what's a way we can guarantee getting cast as an actor that the celebrities I mentioned earlier also did? Creating your own work. By creating our own work, we don't even need to audition, we just cast ourselves. We can tell the stories we want to tell the way we want to tell them. Of course, this isn't easy, but it is the simplest way to guarantee an acting job, and it could lead to more. Honestly, in this day and age, I wouldn't recommend someone be just an actor. If it wasn't obvious already, being just an actor means you're waiting for a bunch of other people to decide to choose you. Self-producing is choosing yourself. And all the previous sections in this video can actually help with that. Your branding can help you figure out what type of character would be good for you to play. You met a bunch of actors in your acting class and now you can cast them in your project. Through your networking, you met producers and writers and directors that you could work with if you don't know how to do it all on your own. People are more likely to take a risk on you after you've taken a risk on yourself. And if you happen to build up a loyal audience by telling the stories you've always wanted to tell, that makes you even more valuable. And there's different ways to do this now. You could go the traditional route where you submit a short film or feature film to a festival and see what happens from that. Or you could learn social media and build up a huge following and even make money doing that. Considering Nielsen crowned YouTube as the top streaming platform for a year straight at the beginning of 2024, I'd say social media is a pretty good option. Like, why do you think I'm on here? Whatever path you choose, creating your own work puts you out there instead of just sitting around at home waiting for auditions. All right, let's wrap this all up with a mental sandwich. We learned that your why is what gets you going, but your mindset is what keeps you going. Our mindsets are made up of the beliefs that we have about ourselves and the world. There's a difference between believing that, oh, maybe you want to try acting, but you're not 100% sure it's right for you, versus believing that you have some great stories you want to tell using your own body as an instrument and the world deserves to experience them. When you get called a bad actor for the first time, which is gonna happen to 99% of us, your mindset is gonna be the difference between whether you give up or you keep going. How do you work on your mindset? There's a lot of options. There's therapy and self-development books and YouTube videos. Personally, I got coaching by Whitney Euland and I highly recommend her. She also posts a lot of videos about her philosophy as well as has a podcast if you can't afford coaching at the moment. And that's it. The guide I wish I had when I first started out as an actor. To recap, you gotta figure out why you wanna do this, learn about the business, get your materials in order, eventually get representation, network, get good at acting, make your own projects, and have a good mindset along the way. Easy, right? Look, being an actor is kind of like running a marathon. Having the expectation that you're gonna move to LA and make it within the first year of being here is just gonna set you up for disappointment. Like if that actually happens for you, then great, amazing. But the idea that I mentioned before about how it takes 10 years to become an overnight success is kind of more true than it isn't. Whatever happens, I do wish you the absolute best of luck. And if you do happen to achieve great success, then please make sure to reference this exact YouTube video in all of your acceptance speeches. Thanks for watching this all the way through, and if you want to know about a bunch of roles I didn't book, then make sure to check out this video. This is James Tang, signing off.